Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here. We stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Amen. We have the scouts come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on up here, guys, the front. Pack 206. Come on right up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, guys. Here's the flag. Look right here and lead that right here. Right up here. Okay, go ahead. Start us off, guys.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, normally we would start with the consent agenda, but we've put off the event facility board for 2 times, and we're not going to do it again today. They're going to be first up. So, no, they're not going to be first up. Rhonda's going to be first up.
Now, I get to be first up.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I want to have Ernesto and Star come up front with Amy, and that's right. I was a judge for the Youth of the Year for the Boys and Girls Home, and I'm very excited about this because these are two. They got the highest award as a member that a member can receive from the Boys and Girls Club, and the candidates here today, they were all former Citizens of the Month award winners and were nominated by the staff to compete for the Youth of the Year award. So Ernesto, thank you for coming. Star, thank you for coming. And maybe Amy, you can tell us a few things about the Youth of the Year.
Can you go to that mic and so everybody?
Go to the mic.
I'm not a youth of the year.
Well, you might, yeah, you could be.
Go to them.
Go
Go to the
guys
mic
go to
or
the
mine. There you go.
And then you guys can talk a little
Ernesto,
bit
yeah,
too if you want.
You two go up there too.
So the Youth of the Year is part of the Boys and Girls Club of Siouxland. We do an award for youth that have exemplified excellent skills throughout the year. They had to write 3 essays, correct? They had to complete an interview process. They had to have letters of recommendation. This was all to become eligible for a $2,000 scholarship. And so we awarded 2 this year, and then these 2 will go on to compete next year in Youth of the Year. And Daisy and Robert, who are not able to make it today, will go on to State Youth of the Year. And if they go that far, they will make it nationally. And the national award is almost $200,000, and that's in scholarship money. So it's pretty cool. Wow. I'll let these 2 talk about it. Or introduce themselves. Just introduce yourself.
Okay.
Just tell us your name.
My name is Star Palmer, and I'm just a Youth of the Year candidate.
Nice.
My name is Ernesto Hernandez, and I'm a Youth of the Year candidate too. Last year, I went to State Youth of the Year, and I got an award last year, and I got a $2,000 scholarship.
Wow.
And it's just been a fun experience, and be able to learn all like new speaking skills and learning to speak in front of people is a great experience.
Well, good luck. Yes,
We
terrific.
appreciate it. Thank you.
I didn't make Scout of the Year or Youth of the Year ever. Did you, Dan? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll go to the event facility board, advisory board discussion.
We need a motion to move it up on the agenda.
Oh, I'll move that up on the agenda.
I'll
First.
second.
Brecken,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
As mayor, I had that prerogative, but you might want to check.
Sure, just cover my bases.
I'll do a little research on that one.
Hello, I'm Dave Madsen. I'm the current president of the Event Facilities Advisory Board. And I just come to you and asking on behalf of the board for you to discuss at some point, maybe it's today, maybe it's some other time, what it is you actually want us to do. What's the guidance that you would give to us as a city council appointed board of advisors? So that's really what I'm here for, and to answer some questions for you. Although Pete and Rhonda, of course, that are at most of our meetings, and Alex used to be at the meetings and stuff. So I think you know a lot about what we do. We just need some advice now on how to proceed. How do you want us to move forward in terms of what should we be discussing at our meetings if we should continue to have meetings? Or are you considering reorganizing the board, which I know we've talked about before? So we just kind of need some guidance from the city council.
Well, I have I've thought about this, and this is
Can I
what,
ask a question first?
Sure.
Before you, if you don't mind. I just wanted to ask a question before we start giving ideas or talking about that. Can you, as the president, maybe tell us a little bit what you think is going well and what you'd like to see improved? I mean, you've been on that for a while.
Yeah, well, the main thing is that things changed when Spectra took over. And in terms of, because we used to be an advisory board to Erica and the folks who were city employees at the time. And so we would meet and we would talk about finances, or we talk about the buildings, or we talk about marketing ideas with city employees. Now we don't have those folks. And so the question is there still a value for us doing this? And I know Spectra has said, and you've said, Bob, that there's still a concern to be able to have some citizen input. And we're certainly willing to do that. But we just need to know, where do you want us actually to do that? Because it seems odd to us to be able to say, Erica, here's what we think, but Erica doesn't work for the city. And we're an advisory board to you, not to Erica. Although I know what you said last time, Bob, was Spectra is the city, but it's still, we're not quite figuring that one out yet. So that's where we need some advice from you. I don't know if that answered your question. It didn't really.
I'm not sure, but yeah.
I mean, here's what the financials were for the previous month, and here's what we noticed if there were any issues in the buildings from the previous month since the last time we met. We had a marketing committee that would meet and talk about, well, here's some events and that the city is doing, that the various venues are doing, and what can we do to help those of us on that committee? Can we help in the marketing ideas? It's just now I'm not sure if we need to continue doing that. So, and like I said, Rhonda and Pete have heard me say this before too, so.
well, here's my thoughts. First of all, I think we need an advisory board. I think there should be 7 on the board. I think we should have 1 person from the Orpheum, 3 from the hotels, 2 citizens, and maybe 1 from the chamber or downtown partners, or, you know, that core. I think we need 1 from Kansas, and we need 1 from Spectra. So that would be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that'd be 9 total, maybe 10. I think it should be called the EFAB Tourist Board, and go from there. I think that we need to reapply for everything. You know, we have plenty of people that we have on the board now that we could have apply again, and figure out what people that would fit into the positions that we're looking for. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And Dave, I'd kind of echo what Rhonda's saying. First of all, I think the Events Facilities Advisory Board has been a great tool for the city, because you have had, you not only meet monthly as a joint committee, but your individual committees were meeting. So you were meeting a couple times a month, and you were discussing a lot of issues that came back to the board that were eventually passed on to Erica as the director of the events facilities. And I think it may not be as detailed or formal in terms of committees, the executive committee, the finances, the buildings, the marketing, but what I think we really need, your first comment about citizen input, I think is an absolute must for me. I think we need people who have a vested interest in the community, who know who get out in the community, who talk to people, who have an idea of what they'd like to see in the community. Again, the city still owns it all, and I think we, the council and the community together, have a vested interest in wanting to provide, you know, the best amenities and programs and events that we can. I'm absolutely confident that Erica is committed to doing the same. I agree with Rhonda. I'm not sure how many total when it all came together, if there were 16, 17, 18 people. Maybe it's too much. I think Spectra should, well, I can tell you this. I talked to, maybe one of the last times Spectra was here at the council meeting, I talked to him afterwards, said, what do you think about an advisory board? And is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? And I was assured by all 3 gentlemen who were here that We think it's a good idea. We want input from the community. So I don't know that it has to be as large, but I do think we need a nice representation. It could be 5, it could be 7, it could be 9. Whatever we're comfortable with of people who have an interest and who still have ideas, who can still point out problems, because Spectra's going to have to deal with those issues one way or another. And I think the feedback that we on the council and the community can provide is really important information. So I don't want to see it go away. I'd like to see it stay. It may not again be as formal as this, and we may not know for a meeting or two
Right.
that we've met, but
For February, we did not meet in February. We just
Yes.
said until we get some, and at this point, it would not make sense for us to continue into March either until you guys, unless you make a decision before then. But, so we just, like I said, that kind of stuff is perfect. You guys make a decision on what do you want and let us know, and then I'll reapply or whatever and move on from there in a reorganized kind of board.
What was your makeup of that?
I have 1 from the Orpheum, 3 hotel people, 2
And when you mean hotel, just,
like,
because then you also
Like-
said Kinseth, but that's kind of hotel convention center.
Mayor and council, I'd probably broaden the hotel people to entertainment, hotels, restaurants, downtown businesses, those that would be impacted by the events at the event center.
yeah. Kingseth, 1 from Kingseth and 1 from Spectra. So that would kind of cover the whole entity of what we have going on the advisory board. So, and it's a tourism thing too.
Mayor and council, building on what Rhonda said, I don't know that I would have a Spectra representative or a Kinseth representative being a voting member, but they should be a non-voting member, similar to, I think a council member should also participate in those meetings as well.
Here's where I'm at. I think we're setting you up to have a disappointing time in your life.
No.
Because I don't think Spectra or Kenseth probably need a lot of input. And I don't mean that negative. I think that you need to concentrate on tourism. Now, whether you have to involve them in the process and they should attend the meeting, maybe. But tourism seems to me to be the thing we lack in this community. And we need a board then that's why the restaurant or the hotel should be represented. But this city needs to decide if you're going to spend some money promoting tourism and get a budget to that effect. And I think you would do the city a lot more good than just going down and having a lunch and looking at a financial statement and going away saying, what did we accomplish? Because I don't think that, I know you're going to disagree, but I don't think at the end of the day that Erica can serve 2 masters, and that's what you basically are setting her up to do, and that's going to be disappointing to you when things don't happen that you see as that are important.
We've certainly had the discussion about the idea of tourism and that that can't get lost. We've talked about that quite a bit.
I totally
actually.
agree. The problem we have here, though, is that as it was behind us here, we were only getting $20,000 a year. That's nothing. We can spend that on 1 event or a couple events.
Sure.
And
But it's just like tickets. We can pay for policemen if they enforce. You can pay for tourism
yeah,
if you increase the number of hotel beds in this community.
Oh,
To-
you're
I
gonna get a
totally
return
agree.
on that.
So you have a plan to get some money to them, Bob?
First of all, Mayor, I don't disagree with anything you just
Oh,
said.
yeah, you do, but that's okay.
No, I
We've
do.
had that
Actually, I
discussion.
do not, but I still see some value in a board that even if its primary focus is tourism for our city, still providing input to both the convention center and Tyson in regards to content or things that they see as they go to events that they think can be improved on. I liken it similar to our parking and skywalk advisory board. We have a private operator that runs our parking ramps, but the board is vital to the input on how we market those and how we've done things with our parking ramps. And I see a similar issue or a similar opportunity with events facilities, but I do think it does take on more of a tourism-related slant. We need to vastly improve our tourism, which then brings more events to town, which Spectra and Kinseth will be vital to their success as well.
Well, and one thing I would just say is I want increased coordination between all of these efforts. Like that's where I really think an advisory board can really be assistive is working with the Orpheum and all these different entities to see what is going on, how can we improve coordination, how does that translate to increased tourism presence and the marketing, I mean, working with Ann's office and everything like that, just to maybe bolster those efforts. Yeah, I really think that could be beneficial just on that standpoint, and the partners, the people that you're bringing together. The other thing I would just say, as far as citizen input and different people, you'd want people that are really active at those venues. You know what I mean? I would want to make sure that the makeup of that board, that they are participating in as many of those events or going to those things and seeing during the day, you know, day-to-day operations, how does it look and what are they hearing back? Because only having 2 citizens on a board, you're not going to get the collective impact kind of what people are thinking and feeling. So how do you capture that information to bring it back, you know, and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing, you know, we need to make some adjustments here or there. And maybe it's not even adjustments on our end, maybe it's the education, right? Like I'm even thinking the metal detectors, you know, how can we improve education? What are you hearing? That's where you hopefully can continue that discussion and have advice or be talking about that.
For what it's worth, I think the current folks on the board are willing to listen to any of your ideas and put any of them into use, or if you change the makeup of the board, and a whole lot of us I think would still apply and that kind of thing. So, so just know that we're looking for some kind of official something of what do you want us to do. So, thanks for the discussion.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to,
Before we go further, I just don't want to leave it like this. What are we going to do from now?
I'm ready to vote to disband the board because I don't think this board and this makeup makes sense going forward. And so I think they have to reapply. I don't know if 3 members from the hotel industry, that seems to be pretty dominant to me. I'm not saying anything bad about our hotel industry, but sometimes they're a little more self-serving for their own individual needs than they are for the global picture. So maybe a restaurant and a hotel owner being represented, I could.
Mayor Council, why don't you let me come back with a proposal with the makeup using Rhonda's input and maybe tweak it to, like I said, to expand beyond just hotels into restaurants and downtown businesses, citizens at large. Like I said, non-voting members, but I think that'd be Spectra. I think that would be Kinseth. When the Ag Center and the arena are up and operating, maybe include them as representatives, maybe not voting representatives. But I'll bring back a proposal that could overlay and replace the existing setup.
Yeah.
Could you include the existing ordinance along with the newly drafted ordinance that you're thinking about,
Yes,
please?
yes.
Yep, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
All right. Now we'll go to the consent agenda, which today is item, you good? 2 through 13H?
Yep.
No, I just
I'm
wanna
on it
make
now.
sure. Okay, just want to make sure. You can consider them to pass unanimously, and a separate roll call vote is asked for by a council member. You come to speak on any item today, please state your name and address so it can be recorded. Anything not on the agenda, please come up at the end under citizen concerns. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
2 is a reading of the city council minutes of February 12, 2018. 3 is a motion acknowledging the Board of Adjustment actions of February 13, 2018. 4 is a motion appointing Adam Johnson to the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee for a 3-year term. 5 is a resolution acknowledging the receipt of petition from Downtown Partners to expand the Main Street Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District. Anyone to be heard on that? Unbelievable, good, okay. 6 are resolutions, actions relating to grants. A is a resolution authorizing the police department to submit a grant application to the Drug Control Police Burn Justice Assistance Program for funding for the Tri-State Drug Task Force. B is a resolution authorizing the police department to apply for a Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau grant for the Department of Public Safety for overtime hours for training, travel, and 2 traffic advisor message boards and related commodities for computer printer software. I have a question that you don't have to answer today, but how long has that speed thing been up on Country Club Boulevard? Quite a while? Do you know?
I'd have to find out for you.
Find that out, would you? I just want to make sure that, I know I'm always critical, but sometimes we take care of some neighborhoods and we don't always take care of others. I just want to make sure that's not happening here.
I'll find out.
Thank you. Not that I want to take care of the people that vote for Mr. Moore, but I want to make sure that we're spreading that out today. C is a resolution supporting an application for the Community Catalyst Building Remediation Grant to the IEDA on behalf of Landmarks for the 625 Douglas project. 7 are actions.
For the, this is for basically the facade, isn't it?
Yeah, taking the stucco down and brick.
Good project.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Erin Berzina, planner. Yes, this is just an application for the facade portion of the project.
Okay. All right, thank you.
7 are actions relating to street closures. A is a resolution temporarily closing various streets in the downtown area on March 17, 2018 for the St. Patty's Day Parade and staging area. B is a resolution temporarily various closing sections of Pierce and 6th Street on March 8, 2018 for the Symphony School concert at the Orpheum Theater. C is a resolution temporary closing various sections of Water and Pearl on May 4th, June 16th and 29th, July 13th and 15th and 24th, August 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 19th, and September 1st, 2018 for the Hard Rock Casino's Battery Park Concert Series.
I just had a question about it, and I don't think it's necessarily maybe for Miss French or just up here, but my question would just be, what is the order in which that happens? It seems like they made their announcement of all their concerts, and I'm excited for them. I'm going to go to some as well. But it's almost like they announce them, they have the acts booked, and then can we close the street, by the way? Or is there better coordination we could ever have there? How
Provide that information 60 days in advance. They, the Battery Park or Hard Rock did not provide us with that information in that time frame. So, but they already were preparing to make that announcement. I have been coordinating with them to let them know that in advance, if they would provide us with that information before. They were waiting for one date before they were submitting the street closure request to me. They wanted to confirm the one date, but I did let them know and inform them that even if they didn't have all their dates confirmed, that they could still provide me with the information and process for the street closure.
Yeah, I just think that's kind of a respectful way to go about it, is try to have it closed or at least know the dates.
Yeah.
You don't have to make the announcement of who the acts are here.
Correct. We did have that conversation before when she submitted it to me earlier in February to get it on the agenda for this month, so.
Okay. I'm
Thank you for that
glad to
question.
hear
though.
you're on it. I just,
Yes.
I know when I was reading it, I was like, well, they already announced everything, so if we don't close the street, I guess we're in a little bit of a tight situation there.
Yes, I do understand that as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Angel.
Mayor, I need to abstain on 7C.
8 are actions adopting construction documents. A is a resolution adopting plans and specs for the Art Center panel replacement project. B is a resolution adopting plans and specs for the Discovery Parking Ramp Repair Project. C is a resolution adopting construction documents for the Morningside Avenue Reconstruction Project. Anyone to be heard on that one? Who's in charge of this today? So we're still closing the driveways even though we didn't on the other end?
We are with the donut shop, we're gonna make it an entrance only. We met with them. And on the tobacco hut, we're closing the driveway. The owner is all right with us closing the property.
Okay with it.
I was gonna ask some of those same questions because we were at the public meeting. I just wanted to make sure everything was cleared up. Can you walk through, and maybe it's not briefly, I should have texted you before, I apologize, just the phasing of it? Because I know there was, and the reason that I'm asking that is we were talking about bumping up the construction schedule and changing the phasing schedule a little bit to do all the side streets first. Is my memory serving me correctly with that?
There is one part that's a side street that is gonna get bumped up, and also we're gonna go into closing it before the Morningside Day Parade.
Yes.
We worked with them about changing their route. so-
Yeah. Okay.
And they were very good to work with for us, so.
Still have a parade though. Mr. Moore is big on
Yeah,
parades.
we're gonna have the
Okay.
parade.
I
They're
looked
just gonna-
at- I
Instead
looked
of
at
That's
staging,
one of his best parades. It's
they're just
one-
gonna stage it differently than they have in the past, and we're gonna work with them about no parking several of the side streets to give them ample room to park, to stage their vehicles.
And so are we waiting until May? Is that kind
No.
of the bid? Okay. Because that's the way I read it, but I
Well,
thought
it's
we,
just
I thought
gonna-
we were.
It's a late start date.
That's a late start. That's just because we're bidding it through the DOT because we have federal funds. So by the time, it's a longer process to get the contracts approved because they gotta go all after you guys approve them and sign them, they gotta go all the way back to Ames and come back before we can start. And then they do it by a late start date of So they have to start, they can start anytime before that.
Okay.
But they have to start by that date.
Okay, and then just the last thing, so I make sure that I heard it correctly, because people were pretty fired up at the meeting. Then the businesses, those driveways, that all got cleared up as far as the
We
tobacco
were,
hut
yeah,
site goes?
the owner of the Tobacco Hut building approved the closure and approved the tenant's not happy about it,
Yeah.
but the owner of the building was okay with it. And we worked with the Sunkist Bakery, it's gonna be an entrance only, and they were okay with that.
Okay, and then the different driveways, we got all the easements or everything else?
Yep. We had one property owner that was giving us a problem about the easement, so we changed the design, so we didn't need to get an easement from them.
Okay,
So we could get it going.
thank you, gentlemen. Thanks.
Okay, next is actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving a Fifth Amendment to the solid waste collection agreement with Gill Hauling. D is a resolution approving change order number 5 to the contract with Christensen Construction for Cone Park Splash Pad and Ice Rink Project. C is a resolution approving the renewable option 2 for Dakota Traffic Services for an additional year of the street pavement painting and striping project. D is a resolution approving a contract to Industrial Process Technology for the RAS Pump Discharge Emergency Pipe Repair Project. 10 are actions authorizing the issuances of checks. A is a resolution approving a partial settlement of a tort claimant to Sioux City Engineering for the Perry Way Reconstruction Project. 11 are actions relating to property. A is a resolution inviting proposals for an easement in the combined central Sioux City CBD urban renewal area, accepting the proposal of Windsor Holdings Company and setting a public hearing for property at 600 West 7th Street. B is a resolution inviting proposals for the sale of land in the combined Floyd River urban renewal area, accepting the proposal of GKD and setting a public hearing for the property at 3240 Floyd Boulevard. C is a resolution accepting applications for property tax exemptions for improvements to the Sioux City Urban Revitalization Area, Schedule 1. D is a resolution accepting applications for property tax exemptions for improvements in the Sioux City Urban Revitalization Area, Schedule 2. 12 are applications for beer and liquor license. See the list, come forward if you have any questions. 13 are receipt of minutes. See the list, come forward if you have any questions. Anyone to be heard on any of those items?
I had one kind of random question, and it was kind of for Pete or maybe Rhonda, one of the two of you. For the Sioux City Sports Commission, I read in the minutes was just about the website discussion. Was that kind of for updating or working on the website for in general or coordination? I apologize for the random.
Cerebral List. I'm a member of the Sports Commission. EFAB, or actually Erica Newton, has some opportunities for tying in their website with the Sioux City website, I believe, back to the Sports Commission. So she's just asking for content to put on, I believe, is it the Visit Sioux City? VisitSiouxCity.com. Put some content on there related to the Sports Commission.
Okay, so it was just coordination between the two of those?
Yes.
Yep, just giving her content.
Come back and forth.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry for the random question. I just read it and I was intrigued by what was happening.
Go ahead and vote if you haven't. I did.
Yeah, we did.
Passes 5-0. Next are recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission, rezoning, hearing an ordinance rezoning 2500 and 2501 business. Highway 75, the petitioners Floyd Dakota, P&Z recommends denial.
Jason Gary for Planning and Zoning Commission. Yeah, this came before us at our last meeting. There was significant discussion about this particular item, and we and the commission voted 5-1 to recommend denial.
I'll move it. We have to move it no matter what. I'm sorry, so I'll move it.
Second.
Now, anyone to be heard? the days up for me. I got the wrong day. Whoops, I get the days up. Go ahead, Dick.
Okay, well, you've got this in front of you, but I'm Dick Salem, 700 Pierce Street, Sioux City, Iowa. On this subdivision, change the zoning, not for the subdivision, but just for this lot. But the name of the subdivision and the name of the whole area there is called Northbrook Industrial Park, not Northbrook Business Park. It is Zone BP, which stands for Business Park. But the only business that fits that name out of the 9 to 10 buildings there on Northbrook itself is probably Artisan Press. When you think of a business park, you think of, like the call center down by the airport, that kind of thing. Well, that was the code under the old, under the previous code as of 2 years ago, would allow the things that are there now, the way they are built now. All the others, like the construction company, the muscle car company, the daily delivery service, the warehouses, 2 years ago, the code was changed for the business park BP designation, and that fit that name before it was changed. And I mean, after it was changed to fit a business park name, to fit the type of building and businesses that a business park would be. But they didn't change the zoning from BP. So not one of the 10 buildings in Northbrook would qualify today under the new code. We are not trying to change the zoning for Northbrook Drive, but we would like it changed so we can develop the 11.4 acres to the north between Northbrook and Palmer Candy's 198,000 square foot warehouse and manufacturing building on 13.8 acres. It's too late to change the code to fit the description, but we are requesting that the zoning be changed to GI, General Industrial, which does fit all the current uses. The new code adds an onerous cost amount to any development that results in it being financially impracticable to develop. The staff listed some uses that recommended disapproval. For some reason, the staff listed some uses that could go in the GI zoning, felt that they were objectionable at that location. They were agricultural packing or processing facility, landfill, salvage facility and yard, and waste transfer station. We would agree to delete those from the zoning for this 11.4 acre lot, and even delete some of the uses that are actually you could get a conditional permit for, like recycling collection and processing, truck stop, and power and solid waste energy recovery plant. We would agree to eliminate those from our zoning for this and the GI. But I guess in summary, I want to remind you that this is really about economic development and increasing the tax base, which for industrial is really double of what a residential development would do because of the difference in the rollback percentage. As you know, the rollback percentage in residential is like 50%, over 50%. Commercial, it's not. Almost a full value. So if you build a $500,000 of industrial, it's taxed at about $500,000 for the tax levy. If you build $500,000 worth of residential, it's only actually taxed based on half of that amount, $250,000 or less. I believe we are being more than reasonable by requesting this rezoning, which will be a win-win for all concerned. And changing this zoning with the limitations I described would have zero negative impact, but 100% positive impact on economic development and real estate taxes. And any questions?
I guess the question I would have, Dick, because I spoke with you a little bit this weekend, and then I called Jeff to talk to him about the project a little bit as well and learn more about it. My question would come from, it sounds like if you would want to go to GI, you're going to have to make some concessions or changes to what that would be, right? In order to alleviate some of those concerns.
Yeah, we'd eliminate.
And you said you would. I understand that.
Yeah.
And from my understanding with staff, and Jeff, please correct me, or Chris, whoever, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that they've offered that leave it BP and then make some different concessions that you could apply back for some changes for the setbacks and the design.
We've gone down
And
that
so
road
my
before.
question is, I just don't understand if staff is saying they're willing to work on that, which is what I read, right? And I think that's what Joe was getting at in his comments in the meeting, from what I read. Is accurate?
I don't know which you want to go. You want to go first?
Sure. Chris Madsen, planner. There's a couple different routes that could be taken. The petitioner has stated the two reasons for the rezoning is design standards and setbacks of the BP zoning district. The GI zone would have less stringent setbacks and would not require compliance with the design standards. This is the purpose of the rezoning. Under the current zoning code, there are a couple different processes we could go through. There is a site plan process that the petitioner could bring forward a site plan. Staff would deny it at the staff level because it doesn't meet our regulations. But the Planning and Zoning Commission would have the flexibility to approve that plan, and that could have reduced setbacks.
Say that again.
What the site plan does have the ability to be flexible with setbacks, or really any zoning regulation, so parking, landscaping, any of those requirements. The Planning and Zoning Commission can waive or reduce those requirements. And that would be appealable to the City Council as well.
And with that then, so the staff would deny because it doesn't meet code, but then it would go to P&Z and they would say, we recommend making these concessions, we think it will still.
Correct. The code does not give staff that flexibility. So if they want to approve it at a staff level, they would have to meet those
Couldn't P&Z have
regulations.
done that the other night?
What we saw was a rezoning. We have not received a sign or a site plan for this property yet.
P&Z could have accepted the GI with stipulations, could they have not? My attorney out there is saying, shaking his head, yes.
Yes, we could have. The reason we chose not to, or the reason we chose not to was because the question always comes when you make those exceptions and you delete potential uses from a zone is enforcement over the long term. As a property changes hands from owner to owner, the question will be, how will we know that they're still operating under the prior agreement as to what the limitations were? That's why we're always a little hesitant to take an existing zone that has a certain number of rights, delete them, and then hope that over 10, 20 years that the previous agreement on use will be honored as the property changes hands and ownership.
Jason, the zoning doesn't go with the owner of the property. It goes with the property. The owner, it has nothing to do with who the owner is.
Yeah.
The property is zoned. It's the same way for everybody from there on out.
I'm not saying that it would, I understand zoning follows the land, Dick. What I'm saying is that when somebody forms an original agreement that this is the rules we're going to abide by, the question is, will that stay enforced over the years as the people who were originally involved in that agreement come and go, or if the businesses or that building changes hands?
Or if the city decides to change the code.
Yeah.
Well, code, anything can happen, but I'm saying is that it's up to the city council and the P&Z in order to do that. So it's no different than anything else. But to go in for a conditional permit and so forth, we found that it doesn't work. You know, it's so much, it's time and it's money, and it's also very seldom ever gets approved.
And our position is that if they came with a site plan and they wanted to have flexibility with setbacks and also with some of the design standards, we have done that as a commission before. Not the last time you came forward, because that application changed when the petitioner came forward and said, I don't want to comply with any part of it. That was not acceptable to the commission.
This is not
I've been on the commission for a few years and we have made exceptions.
We're going to go one at a time, because I can't hear very good anyway. So let's go one at a time. You'll get your chance.
So we have made exceptions in the past. We really have. And if you're not satisfied with the exceptions we're willing to make, of course you have the right to appeal that to City Council.
Well, what is the objection for, why do you have to do that when you can just change the zoning and eliminate these uses and you wouldn't have to go through all that? I mean, does it to make too much sense to do that, or I don't understand.
I think that goes back to where I think the commission was coming from, is it still is a fundamental question of enforcement over time. And will the conditions and the limitations of use be honored over longer periods? That is the question, because you know that once zoning is established on a property, certain rights are attached to it, certain expectations are attached to it. And so that was the concern we had.
Okay, I got
That's
a
up
question.
to
I used
future.
just a minute. I owned a building up there at one time.
Yeah.
I was never offended by the metal buildings that were built along there. I understand there might be some people that have a different opinion of that. I was never offended of that. And so had they built something 3 years ago, they would have been able to build another metal building up there. I'll wait to hear from the neighbors. But if you control what it can be in there, I don't care what your concerns are, because we may not be, should be recorded, shouldn't it? Somewhere should be recorded what the people can do. Is that right or not? And the uses would be controlled.
Yes.
So you're basically saying that you want to be able to build a metal building with different setbacks, but yet not be industrial, is what I'm hearing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the business park does allow for industrial uses, and the uses that are being
Don't call it a business
proposed.
park, because you guys dreamt that up. This, I'm sorry, but you dreamt it up. Metal buildings were allowed there. Am I right? The uses that will be allowed up there under what he's proposing, and he's limiting them. So really, we're talking about the facade of the building and the landscaping and all those sort of things, which I think you can overcome personally with some sort of reason. So what am I missing? Why would they have to go back and go your way? Why couldn't it be amended right here to limit that and to do that? Why are we putting this through a process again? And I'm gonna wait and listen to the neighbors. I'm asking these questions because I want to know.
Sure, I guess
got friends on both sides of the issue today.
from a staff perspective, we would view that there is a process within the current zoning district that the petitioner could go through. Over the last 3 years that we've had the zoning code, we have worked with at least 20 different property owners, either on site plan or building design standards, and we have worked with
You're not answering my
those.
question. Can we accomplish the same thing? You're talking semantics then. That's all you're talking here today is semantics.
Well, and that's what I was trying to get at is, I am not an expert in this, but I feel the way I'm reading it is 6 of one, half a dozen of another.
Exactly.
You're literally either adjusting the code that's already in place, which is what they're recommending, keeping it as BP and making adjustments, but Dick is saying change it to GI and make adjustments. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I guess is your objection, Mr. Mayor, because it would just take more time to reapply? Is that? Because then it would take time to go back through the process, right? And Dick, your worry is that it'll take time to go back through the process and then it won't be approved. And obviously,
Listen, the
you can't
staff's gonna
guarantee
turn it down no matter what.
Yes,
That's their
because
job.
it doesn't
Not being
vote.
critical. They're gonna turn it down no matter what.
Because it doesn't.
That's gonna lean heavily on your decision.
On our decision.
On
Yes,
your decision.
yeah.
Decision.
It does lean heavily, but we've also been here before with a different parcel in the same area, and it was the same basic argument, is that we want to be GI. We feel that really it solves the problem of setbacks and design
That was
standards.
spot zoning at its worst. I was with you on that.
Well, this is the same business park, just a different parcel, and so we really struggled with
What's to the
saying
north?
why.
What's to the north?
Palmer Candy,
We really
Pretty
struggled.
industrial.
zone business park.
It's pretty industrial, and it was industrial before you guys. It never was.
It was zone light manufacturing, which
Okay, that's industrial,
which
guys.
the BP zoning district is the equivalent in the new code.
But under the ML, you didn't have to have all your brick on the front. You didn't have to do all that stuff. No, you did not.
We didn't
That
have
is
any
correct,
design
yes.
standards under the old code.
Yeah, we didn't have design standards under the old code.
Exactly.
Yeah, we didn't, and that is the fundamental concern that they have. We feel, I think, as the commission was, let's deal with the real issue, with the real issue of setbacks and latitude to not have to follow design standards. And our fundamental feeling was, let's solve it through a site plan process and let's hash it out there rather than trying to solve it through rezoning. That was where we were coming from.
All right. Anything else, Dick?
Yeah, probably not.
And Dick, can you tell me why is it just because you're saying it weighs too heavily on their decision to make that call? Then?
Okay, if we had to put a 60% architectural front on the buildings, like the building of industrial of a warehouse that maybe we might be working on, it would cost well over $100,000 more than to build a building just like the other ones are in that same business park.
No, but it sounds like they're willing to have the design standards be different. I'm just saying.
The design standards in the GI is not onerous to anybody. And so I don't understand that. The design standards in the code for BP is for a business park type of operation, not industrial. And so they changed the code to meet what the BP, the code now is really what the BP's whole development was involved with, developed as an industrial park. You got a 200,000 square foot warehouse and manufacturing facility right next to the parcel we're trying to rezone. I mean, so make it a business park? I mean, it's just not common sense. That's all I have to say.
I want you all to remember, I'm the one guy that voted against that change for $250,000. I didn't vote for that whole study. I feel really good today about that as well, so. Now, you guys go ahead and solve this
Do we want
problem
to
you
hear from the
created.
neighbors? Anyone else like to speak on the item?
So Chris, what was the issue? Why did you change it to business park during that process?
The ML, light manufacturing, all got changed.
Excuse me?
Because the light manufacturing all got changed to that, right? Pretty much?
A majority of it did. In some of the business parks in town, this was one of those, Expedition would be another. And a lot of the businesses that front on I-29 or major highways, if they were light manufacturing before, they were switched to business park. The only other industrial zone is the general industrial, and that was kind of a combination of all of our heavier industrial zones into one.
Well, in your opinion, is what Dick says, do all of those businesses really belong in a GI?
All the businesses, as far as the land use would be, and it is correct, none of them or very few of them would meet our design standards today. If any major reconstruction of their sites, new buildings that would be constructed, those would have to meet our design standards. But at the time, they were not required to, and for the most part, they did not.
And that just seems challenging because now we're changing this whole area into business park. None of the buildings meet business park, and now anything new, we're expected to be business park.
And that's why we put in the process that the Planning and Zoning Commission could look at that, look at what is existing in this area and make a determination. I would go back, Jason kind of referred to, there was one site that did come forward for a reduction in the requirements. Off the top of my head, I don't recall what the percentages were, but 60% would have been required. Let's say they were asking for 20% decorative material. We include overhead doors, entry points, all of those as decorative. On the floor of the Planning and Zoning Commission, that was changed to be zero compliance. The Planning and Zoning Commission did not approve that, but they did approve the 20%. So they did reduce the amount of decorative material that was required on that structure.
Design standards has been something that this city has been wrestling with for many, many years. Yes, there are businesses, not just in this park, but in plenty of parks and other areas that don't meet design standards under the current code. They're grandfathered. But the question is, what do we want the community to be? What do we want it to look like? And that does affect, just like this petitioner, it affects everybody going forward.
Is that 60% frontage or 60% of the building?
60% of the facade that fronts on either a street or a parking lot.
Well, that's a big difference because in this building, that could be how many sides? See, that's my hang up. You put this so that there's parking in a roadway on the other side, depending on how they come in, how they situate the warehouse. If they run this the long way and they enter from the street that I own a building on, Northbrook, if they enter from Northbrook, that whole building has, that whole front, and because it fronts 75, at a minimum, half of that building has to be 60% decorative. That's a lot for any business to do. I mean, I think you'd have to agree that's, I don't know if 100,000's right. Look, I want the buildings to look nice, I really do. But we can get a little bit, 60%'s a lot, depending on how that building sits on a lot.
And I would agree, and that's where staff would look at the request, what is being asked for, and make our recommendation to the planning and zoning, who would then make their determination.
And we have reduced it in the past, and it was even expressed in the meeting that we would be flexible if they brought something forward to us. The other thing is
here's my disappointment.
Just, can I finish one other point? Just, here's the other part of that. If they're not satisfied with our judgment on their request for decorative material to be reduced and setbacks, they can appeal it to the city council. And you
I
can
understand all that, but
Yeah.
but you got a lot of neighbors here, everybody, and tried to figure this out. This is not the place where we ought to be doing this. You guys knew it was coming, you knew it was gonna be a problem.
No, I'm just a bit confused.
Huh?
I just said it seems like we do it a lot.
I know.
I'm not an expert of this.
And this is frustrating, because I understand what these guys want to do, and I understand these guys' concerns, and they're both legitimate. And somehow, there ought to be a compromise here that people can live with. Listen, I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be a rendering plant or any of that sort of stuff. I get that. It needs to be a business similar to what warehouse-type business. I get all of that. And it needs to be maybe a little bit more attractive than what others are up there, but anyway. Who's next?
Lauren Mason, 3319 Northbrook Drive. I just have a question. I don't know if this is the place to ask the question. When this property on Northbrook was zoned light industrial and then the name was changed to business park, what actually changed? Did things change besides the name?
The standards going forward.
Standards,
Going
big time
forward.
difference, Lauren. Not one of your buildings would qualify today.
Okay, but I would like to speak up. We're not all a bunch of metal buildings up there.
No, I understand that, but I'm not sure your
Yamaha, you have
facade.
AOX, you've got Artisan Press.
I'm not sure your facade meets it though, does it?
No, but Jeff thought we were close to it with the garage doors and the brick. And in this entire discussion with planning and zoning, they struggled with this over a number of meetings. And one of the individuals on planning and zoning said, well, no, these other buildings do not meet the qualifications right now, but when they remodel, like for us, we need to reside our building, and when we reside the building, it will have to meet the design standards.
Which I think is wrong. I don't find any of those buildings unappealing as I drive up there. To me, they're not unappealing.
Right.
None of your businesses are.
Right. So anyway, the main concern that I have is once you change the zoning to GI, to me it feels we're concerned about where Northbrook Drive ends and where it is plotted to continue. We've been told by individuals that that's going to become a borrow pit and we're just going to have trucks flying down Northbrook all the livelong day. Some of the residents basically were told by developers that this is basically in force and you just as well agree to whatever we wanted. We fought some time ago about getting a tow yard up there because having a tow yard up there would definitely change. And yes, there are standards for tow yards, but I know of another tow yard in town where they've got the wood boards for the fence up, and that was 6 months ago, and it's still sitting there, and you're seeing all the junk cars. We also had a neighbor directly to our south, the recycle plant, who just had piles of electronic recycle. They just pull up in a truck and just throw them in a great big heap, and then I watched them for 8 months just unload the sewers out of their buses into the storm drain. And I called the city, I can't tell you how many times. In the future, I'm going to write the name down of who I spoke to and what date. And it wasn't till probably 6 to 8 months that I started mentioning emptying this into the storm drain that something was actually done about it. So I'm just saying, I feel that Mr. Gary has a point. How do we keep track of this for in the future? So my concern is not setbacks. My concern is not design standards. My concern is once we have a parcel of ground there that is deemed GI, then as the person who purchased the property that somebody said they want to make a borrow pit out of, and they sent a letter in support of the zoning change to GI, because then that would open up different avenues for them with their property. So we just feel that I have no idea what it's like to sit in your job, to be a developer of property, but I believe the property was purchased recently. They knew the zoning at the time of the purchase. That's my understanding, at least. And I'm just a person who's saying I'd really like to see it remain. For BP, it says it's meant to be an office, research, and technology park with enhanced site building standards to employment center. So, there's a person who recently purchased, and I believe has invested over $1 million in our area, and he was looking at a other parcel of ground that was zoned GI. But he chose this area because he says he has people coming to his showroom, and he wanted to have a nicer environment for them to come to his showroom. So that's everything.
I get that. I'm not opposed. And a deed restriction, if this council puts it on there, is, but, go back through the planning and zoning, but a deed restriction is enforceable. You don't get to change what the council says just because I'm gone. It's on that property and it will stay on that property.
But once something is changed in zoning from BP to GI, does that give more opportunity for other changes?
Not if they're willing to limit the scope to only what is in the B. That stays with that property. It's recorded on the deed, is it not? It's recorded on the deed. So the guy that buys that property that wants to put a rendering plan in there is going to say, no, I guess I can't do that because there's a deed restriction here.
It would be a conditional zoning. They would have to actually sign an agreement limiting the uses, and that would be recorded as part of the ordinance, not necessarily as part of the deed.
But if you go back through the other way and that you can accomplish the same thing, it's not life or death to me, but anyone else to be heard?
So if you did a deed restriction, then that would be a compromise for everybody? Is that what you're
Well, it's
saying?
either that or you go back through the BP, Dick gets rejected by the staff, then the planning and zoning, you toss a coin because you don't know what they're gonna do, then this council can accept or reject it, yes.
But then it can all stay BP.
Right.
Instead of BP with one section of GI with these concessions, essentially making it BP.
Exactly, yes.
So a deed restriction would make it just simple.
No, you do,
No,
a side plan or a deed restriction is the same basic thing. It's gonna show on the title, the deed. Go ahead.
No,
I'm
generally
practicing
speaking,
law here, and that's your
generally
area.
speaking, it would be filed for
Okay,
record and it would show up in the.
As your
abstract.
paralegal, I wanted you to confirm my findings here today. Go ahead.
Cindy Harris, 3104 Northbrook. We are just concerned. Now, he brought up the taxes. Let's bring that up. We've already paid almost $30,000 a year in taxes for our property. What would GI do next to it? Would it raise our property taxes?
No.
Because
No bearing.
the owner already told me, he goes, if it goes any more than this, he goes, we can't afford it as it is. It's $30,000. It's a lot of money. He goes, we just might as well go across the river to North Sioux, go over there and build.
Properties are taxed.
Well, we understand, but he brought up the tax part,
But it
part
won't-
of the GI. Now, what would it do to the business park or our property? If he says it would raise theirs, what would it do to ours? And that was just a question I'm
Nothing,
concerned
because
with
you're
too.
taxed as your piece of property, has no bearing. My house has no bearing on your house. It's what the value, each value is valued at. It has no bearing.
Okay,
It's not like an area is taxed a certain amount.
No.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Well,
BP isn't
and the
taxed.
concessions, again, that would be nice, but do we get to be involved in those concessions of what they said that the property would not have on it?
That's what I kind of was hoping our staff could get
You would
done.
be able to go back to, like, if we send it back to P and Z, you would be able to go back and
Another
voice that.
meeting,
Is
yeah.
that correct? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
unless.
Can I just remind everybody, we're not asking to change.
No, you can't, Dick. You have to come to the mic after somebody's talked. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna set the ground rules because it's gonna be this way all day. So, right, guys? I want to get the rules established early. Go ahead.
Just to answer your question, with the GI, if they were to meet the regulations of the GI, the setbacks, the no design standards, then it would be approved at a staff level if they meet those restrictions. With the BP, since they're asking for some changes to what the code would allow, that would require another public hearing, which would also require notification. And we would send the site plan out as part of that notification. So the rezoning, we would not do that, have that process.
And how long of a process would it be for that?
30 days.
After they get a plan put together?
Correct.
You know, the only problem I see is the design, the setbacks. Why don't you just change the business park setbacks, the designs?
Bingo.
Problem
We
solved.
didn't have them what we have now.
Right. Well, I mean, if that's the issue, wouldn't that be the lesser of all evils to do that?
But to Mr. Gary's point, you're hoping to change in the future and to have better buildings and design standards and setbacks. There's a reason that they want that park a certain way. It sounds like one of your neighbors.
Who wanted standards, and then you have the business park right next door. I mean, you're gonna spot zone, Palmer County doesn't, they do, and then we do. So why don't you just change the design codes to make everybody happy?
Because they spent $250,000 on that plan, and now we are locked into it. I'm just telling you the truth, so.
Yeah, well, no point.
I don't know if you heard me or not, but I just want to make one thing clear. We're not asking, I don't know, these people coming up, we're not asking them to change zoning on Northbrook Drive, on their street. This is a separate parcel. I wish you'd pull up the site plan. It's not Northbrook Park, or not Northbrook Drive that we're asking to change the site. Only the 11.4 acres between Northbrook Drive and Palmer Candy. So I think that, you know, the objectors coming up and saying that it's going to change my taxes, they can keep the BP for all, I don't care. We're not changing the zoning to BP on their street. We're changing it in a separate parcel, completely separate from these people's land. And not only that, but Lauren, you know, I love him and I use his company, you know, to wash the windows and stuff. But he can't even see this property from his location. If you pull the site plan up, I'll show you. And neither can the guy around the corner up.
That doesn't matter, he drives by.
Yeah, I
just
know,
like
but I
drove
mean,
by it
I'm
every
just
day.
on the point.
I get that, I
The
get
main
that.
thing
Where
was.
are you gonna enter the property? Are you gonna enter it on 75, or are you gonna enter it off of Northbrook? That's a question. Why are these things a mystery? Why can't you guys answer these and take some of the fear out of the neighborhood? That's what I don't understand. You go to P&Z and you're planning on a project and you don't know where the driveway is. Now, come on, you know where the driveway is. Let them know where the driveway is. That's not being a very good neighbor, guys. I'm sorry. I want to know where your driveway is going to be before I vote. Do you know where it's going to be? Because I don't think you're going to get a curb cut on 75. I can't imagine the DOT giving you another one with one right next door at Palmer Candy.
There is a cutout there.
Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you can use
Oh,
it.
that's the chance we took.
Well, then, what's your backup plan? These neighbors want to know. They asked the question. P&Z asked the question. You didn't answer the questions. You guys have come here twice, and you haven't answered the questions. And they're pretty basic questions. And if you don't know now where your curb cut is, if it's coming off 75, then you need to go to the DOT and
You have to have a site plan, and we don't have we have to have something to show them, and we don't have anything
You have an
at this
idea
point.
where the road's coming in, don't you?
You can't landlock somebody.
I'm not.
So they'd have to, I think they would have to give it to us.
Did that answer my question? Because if it did, it went right over my head.
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Where do you anticipate today accessing your property?
Well, the main access would be Highway 75.
Okay, you are planning on accessing there. I know where the road yeah, I know. Yeah. That's all I'm asking. Is that where you plan on accessing?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you could go in off of Palmer Candy's driveway.
No, we can't. do that. That would be going across private property.
Well,
We butt up against private property. We don't butt up against, we don't,
there are easements, Dick, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm saying.
there's no easement for that. They'd have,
You can, okay.
so what's the difference, even if they went in from Palmer Candy's?
What's it, exactly, what is the difference? Why not answer the question? That's all.
I'm answering you. I said Highway 75.
But you haven't got a curb cut approved yet.
No, we haven't applied for it.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. Now that's the answer that we could have had, that's all.
Just showing the map. In the green here is the property that's being requested to be rezoned, and then the Northbrook Industrial Park would be located to the south here.
So they have to allow access off of that?
There are two areas
Public?
that could be accessed. I don't recall off the top of my head what these street names are. That
Those are streets, well, yeah, they're.
correct. That's a site plan. I can't tell you where that would be, but there is the opportunity for access from Northbrook.
So if they built a long building and accessed off Highway 75, the only design standard they would have to meet is the front of the building.
Correct.
But if they access off one of those two streets, then they've got a design standard, the front and the side.
Depending on where their parking lot is located, that it's possible, yes.
And depending on what P and Z would say, right? I mean, depending on the percentage they assess to it, right?
Yeah, essentially, they'd have to bring a site plan forward and show us what their plan is.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and we've said it I know I've said it at the meeting, I know other commissioners have said it, and you asked about Joe Craig. He was in the same position where, we can find a middle ground here,
Yeah.
but we just didn't want to do the rezoning. We wanted to follow
Yeah.
what most petitioners have done in the past, which is put a site plan forward and ask for what they're looking for reductions.
That makes sense.
I would point out, Mayor, you mentioned about the facade treatment. We have mentioned to the petitioner that without seeing an elevation of the building, it's difficult for us to try to estimate what that cost would be to meet the design standards. They have been told, and staff's been told, that the building would be at dock height and would consist of a number of doors for warehousing. As Chris mentioned, all those overhead doors would be considered decorative material, and the dock height construction would be concrete, and textured concrete is a decorative material. So with the dock height and the number of doors and the walk-through doors, there's a pretty good chance that they're already approaching that 60%.
All right, anyone else to be heard?
Brent Elson, 3307 Northbrook Drive. Also, we voiced our concerns on this, mainly being the rezoning of it to the GI of what could come behind us and what we have to look at every day. The street access and road access, Bob, that is also was one of my notes here, is how are you going to access that property? Northbrook Drive is a narrow drive. We understand that the area was developed years ago. We went with what the standards were there when we moved our business up there also. So you don't want to build a Taj Mahal building in an area like this. So I understand the petitioner's concern on doing the building, and we're willing to make concessions on that of, yeah, let's have buildings that look equally the same, because it'd be foolish to build a Taj Mahal building on one of those properties and have the other ones not. So why can't
Tourist attraction if we put a Taj Mahal?
it could be. It could be
a revenue generator.
It could
Let's
be.
not knock that.
Yeah, it could be. So why can't we just change the business park, put a lenience on there for him to be able to do his setbacks and be able to do the facade and keep it a business park zoning? That seems like the easy approach to us on it. That's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me ask the neighbors, show of hands, are you for what your neighbor just said there, the majority of you? Raise your hands if you are.
You mean staying BP but changing the design standard?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone else to speak?
Not to belabor a point, but in previous petitions, the same people have been asking for GI, and at that point, they were asking for the tract of land that you were talking about now, and then they had two other tracts. So it's just easy for me to think, well, once they get this changed to GI, then it's easy for them to get it changed to these other areas. So that's part of my
Just the domino effect, yeah, okay.
The motion on the floor is to deny. If you would withhold, I'm right on that, right? You vote yes if you want to stay with the denial, correct?
Yes, to stay with BP, basically.
You gotta vote no, we can't vote electronically without more. Oh, okay. Well, it seems to me that we can solve this problem, but, because I don't think there's any big, I don't understand, other than having to put a site plan in place, but then when you don't know what the building is, that's the problem, right?
What would the process be if you kept it as a BP and then they resubmit?
But they have to
bring forward their design plan?
But they have to know their building envelope, even if they build inside that, though, they're okay.
Correct. We would receive a site plan, we would receive building elevations, and any reductions in code requirements that would come along with that. At a staff, if you were to leave it as BP, at a staff level, we would be obligated to deny it. They would then appeal to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We would make a recommendation at that point, and then P&Z would make their determination. And then the applicant, they could appeal to the city council.
And I'm kind of hung up, to be perfectly honest. I think Jason's statement about the basic question should be, what do we want it to look like and to be consistent? And if we change that and this is the way we want it to be for future, if we continue to make changes, why do we even have a P&Z code, for heaven's sakes? I mean, if we're going to have standards, we should adhere to standards. If we're not going to have standards.
But you changed those standards already 2 or 3 times. And you need to look at what it is. Because you've already changed them after you spent all that money.
Yes, I understand that.
And unfortunately, there should have been somewhere between heavy industrial and business park. There should have been something in the middle here, but I know you couldn't do it. I get it. But this is not a business park as such. It was never laid out to be it was meant to be a small industrial park that people that wanted a machine shop or wanted to do cars and that was what it was laid out to be. It was never laid out to be some computer center with all kinds of nice windows type buildings. It was just never done that, but now that's kind of what you got in this no in between.
Well, and I guess that's my point. We seem to make these decisions semi-frequently where we make changes, and if the real issue is setbacks and design standards, then maybe we need to take a closer look at that and change that, as opposed to having somebody come up periodically and make a request for a change again because they don't like the setback or they don't like the design standard, or I'm lost at why we have rules that we don't enforce.
Well, at one time, they didn't want the metal that's on the building, you're a real estate guy, what is it down there, the old Firestone store? What's that? The old Firestone store.
Oh, I think, honestly, when I think back to design standards, I think about that bank they put right across from the Tyson Center, that little house bank.
Yeah, but
Liberty Bank.
If you went to your original deal that you just did, the metal on the museum would not have qualified. Because remember that you were having a problem with the Firestone store, and it's the same exact metal. Now, that doesn't seem unappealing to me, but I'm not an art guy, so I don't know what is acceptable and what isn't. Al Fernandez Harris will tell you that every time he sees it.
We have an architecture guy on the P&Z, so he usually informs us on what he thinks acceptable and what's not.
I drove up Northbrook a couple of times since this discussion and this issue came up, and I don't find anything unappealing about it.
I don't either. It's an attractive.
But I don't. Maybe I don't have the background that you have, and if you set, setback standards and design standards, then I think that's probably what we should be doing, but.
Well, and that's why they're saying that we can keep it all BP, but then you just make some adjustments on based on how much or how
Right,
much.
but the idea behind this new plan was that you wouldn't be having all these site plans anymore.
Yeah, that's
Gonna go
what
away.
because you guys are fighting over the process of design standards. We used to fight over site plans. Every
Right.
commercial development was a site. It's just you guys are having a different fight than what previous councils have had to deal with. So I understand.
All right, I was wrong. If you want to confirm the vote of the P and Z, you vote no.
That's correct.
You vote no.
No. So it's reset to revote. It fails 4-0. I would hope that this could come back. I think there's not any reason why it can't come back and be acceptable to everybody, but I'm afraid that it's going to take some meetings and you're going to have to direct them before it gets to P and Z and before it gets to this council, so that the neighbors have an understanding, so the developer has an understanding, so that we don't spend another hour of my life I'm never going to get back on this without that, okay?
I mean, there's.
15 is a hearing and resolution accepting the proposal of the United States of America, State of Iowa for Airport Joint Use Agreement and lease for land in the Donner Park Urban Renewal Area, property at 2920 Headquarters Avenue. I'll move it.
Second.
Passes 4-0. I didn't see it, but 4-0. 16 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specifications for the Tyson Event Center wheelchair ramp replacement project. I'll move that.
Second. I'm not sure.
Passes 4-0. Hearing, 17 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specifications for the City Fuel Island project. I'll move that.
Second.
I had a question about that. Dave, the more I'm reading about this, the more concerns I just have about if we're looking at moving a great deal of that. I mean, I'm all about putting them above ground. I understand that, and then we can move the above ground tanks. I totally get that. But if we're gonna be are we putting a new pad and everything there?
Yeah, we can't, the fuel islands can't wait. We're changing our fuel filters, our pumps by like 2 times a week. Our existing tanks are failed. They're rusting in. We gotta get.
Okay, so then, okay, let's take it another step then.
Yeah.
So then, we'll put them above ground. What is the additional cost? What other costs are there? Are we putting a new cement pad and that?
Yeah, they'll have foundations and they'll have a foundation system and they're gonna have a concrete pad and a pump system and everything, yeah.
Because my question is, I'd be hesitant to invest a whole bunch of money if it's something that we can't move. Like, I'm fine investing in the pump system and the above ground because that's all mobile. We can figure out where we're going to put it.
But also understand, I mean, our moving of the field services is gonna happen over a long period of time. These pumps will be there for a long, the last thing that'll get moved will be CMG and the pumps.
So where are you moving it to, where you're not gonna have this problem again?
We're moving it to the opposite side of the building, but we're gonna end up with a foundation system. We're not having the tanks aren't settling. The tanks are failing because they've rusted out.
I get that.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why we're not going over by the park ground, that storage yard. We know that's virgin soil, that's not a landfill. And even that facility would work if you ever moved down to Hawkeye Drive. Look right on the corner.
Oh, where the old animal control used to be?
No, the other corner, to the west. right there on Hawkeye Drive. Then you would never have to move it, because your trucks would come out of Hawkeye Drive, drive down the street, fill up, and be gone.
Well, the viaduct plan knocks that area out, though. If you're talking about.
Well, let me tell you, you got a better shot at winning the lottery today than you do that, okay? But I'm glad hope springs eternal for a guy.
Are you talking about that area, Mayor, where Parks and Rec uses now, or where Leonard's?
They can store on anything because it's not heavy. It's not gonna sink.
Yeah.
It's the old animal control. That's what I was referring to as the old animal control site.
Animal control was the other way by utilities.
Old one.
Yeah, you're really old with the old, like, because
the old-
animal control
the
was
old
down there
Humane
before
Society.
You weren't around when it was bad.
That's what I was always told it was. So
It was
Yeah, I
a
was gonna
humane
say, you were
society.
never around when
No.
I was, but the old Humane Society. Why not there? Why does that not make sense? You don't have to do footings and foundations, other than for your tanks probably, but
yeah, you just have to do footings and foundations.
not for the drive.
And that's fine if you don't have the answer. Can we
No,
can we just go back and maybe look at that?
Well, this bid's tomorrow. That's the issue we have. I mean, we're bringing this up now. It bids tomorrow. We're kind of in a. I mean, unless you guys.
Now, let me be perfectly clear. I've never been to your project to begin with, as you're aware. So that's somebody else's problem, but that's fine. Build it. I don't care. It's a waste of money. It's a huge waste of money.
Because I mean, we've gone. We were initially going to put them right back where they were at, and then we were going to bury them. And this thing's gone around. I mean, this thing was started 2 years before I got here, and this has just been moved around and jumped around, and we're just kind of with our backs up against the wall.
But the problem for me is the staff's always said this is a site. They've never been willing to look anywhere. The site across the street was for sale, would have got you off there. It's not a landfill. Nobody would look at that site when Myron Olson sold out. So you guys have locked in and you've never, ever.
Well, don't say you guys, because that happened
Well,
before I got
you
here.
fell prey to it. So, let's just vote then.
Well, no, so they're just because we're too far down, there's nowhere, you can't pump the brakes and say, all right, let's.
We can, but we're just running into a situation where it's
Still doing fuel filters by.
well, but it's the problem is the damage it potentially can do to our vehicles, because the problem is we're getting particles into our fuel.
Well, then we ought to not be pumping out of there and we ought to find an alternative. You ought to move down and fill up at the bus barn or something where you got the right tanks. And you ought to vacate this thing completely.
Until it happens, yeah.
Let's quit doing what we're doing.
What would be the life expectancy of above-ground pumps and the setup you're gonna have?
Long time.
Long time.
A lot longer than,
We'll be gone.
well, and if we get
Well,
a new,
yeah, I'm not sure how fast the whole facilities thing is gonna move, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a good chance they'll still be usable when.
give it
they're
out,
done.
yeah.
And is the mayor right that if we did put it at
Yeah.
that other location, we might
More
still
than one, that's right.
leave them there?
Possibly, yeah.
So I guess, yeah, you tell me, Dave, I understand and I would take full fault that I should have thought more thoroughly about this, or at least approached the topic about moving it to a different location. I understand the change to above ground. I understand that we went through that. I understand the change to have biodiesel, to be able to do that for different vehicles. I understand all those things. I just want to make sure that we're not putting however much in footings and cement. Because then what is the downside of saying, and I apologize, walk with me on this. What is the downside of saying, look, it's damaging our vehicles, so like the mayor said, we fill up elsewhere, or we use something alternate so that the vehicles aren't damaged, because I agree that'd be a huge cost as well, right? So we change that, then we go back and we look at this different site, and we just push that, and then if we decide that that's the best, then great, we develop a plan for that and move forward with it. And if not, we build it where you already have planned. I mean, is there a downside to that besides time? I mean, I understand that it's down the road and it's time, but if we're fueling up somewhere else and we're saving the vehicles there, you're not having to change the filters as often anymore. And I'm just one vote, Dave. I'm just one vote.
It's just time. I mean,
I'm just thinking
I mean,
longevity and long term. I'm just trying to talk.
It gets tough when this is, this has been a project that's been in the CIP for I don't know how long, and we come to the day before the bid, and now we're gonna move it. And I know Bob had
I mentioned that site in budget hearing.
Yeah.
And it fell on deaf ears. So 2 months ago, you
Yeah.
heard that from me.
But I mean,
We
this
went
thing's
through
been
that
going on
sheet.
for a long time, so I mean, yeah, we can go back and we can start all over again, but we can do that, but I mean, you know, we're gonna have engineering costs and all that involved in it too. So it's up to you guys.
So what kind of research does it take, or how much work? A month, 2 months?
Yeah, I'd have to go out and talk to the guys how we fit situated out there and where we'd have to get power from and all that type of things. And security would be the other thing. So we'd have to fence it in.
Well, like I said.
Why is security a problem?
We just have to fence it in. I don't think that the lot where they're parking those.
Been a problem. I mean, there are co-ops all over the world that don't have any fencing. Don't you guys have a reader that they fill?
Yeah, we got a reader, but I mean, everything else that we have is fenced in.
Okay, well,
yeah.
But
and
I'm not a guy who's going out there all the time, so I can't, you know, as far as the practicality on how their usefulness of it, I'd rather talk to the guys that got to use it.
And I'm telling you, I'd be the first to admit, I wish I would have said more before. I'm taking full blame on that, I promise. But I'm just thinking more about what I would.
No, because it was said before, it was just, and we talked about it, but I mean, it was talked about across the street, but the acquisition time on that was gonna take, yeah. I mean, I did miss you here, you saying the old Park and Rec site, or the Park and Rec site, that's the old Humane Society, I missed that, but, I mean, that's.
And I'm just one vote, I'm just telling you
No,
that's.
it's you guys,
kinda where I'm
it's
at.
completely up to you guys.
That's where I'm at. If there's an opportunity to do that, I know that we're down the road, but I think that there may be some options we can look at. We'll just see where council goes, I guess.
I'm with you, Dave.
Okay. Is Dan coming back or no?
no.
Okay.
So this one could be deadlocked today. Unless Rhonda wants to do what's right.
Oh, see how this works, guys?
Let's vote. We got to
That-
roll.
You're bullying me. This is not good.
It will be back next week. 18 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and
Did we
specifications.
defer that?
No, because we'll have to, the letting's tomorrow, so we'll have to cancel tomorrow.
No, how it works is you hold the bids.
You can do that? Just don't open them?
Can hold the bids and not open them.
Okay.
I should get, does everybody just get a law degree without having to go to that school? 18, a hearing and resolution approving plans and
Did I just get out of
specifications
that?
for the Cook Park Splash Pad project. I'll move that if I haven't already.
Second. Sorry.
Passes 4-0. 19 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $16,600,000. We'll vote by roll call. Oh, I'll move it.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
20 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
21 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
22 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $900,000. I'll move it.
Second.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
23 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second?
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 24 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
25 is a hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
25 next, right? Hearing and resolution for the issuance of GO bonds not to exceed $1 million. I'll move it.
Second?
26.
26.
26.
Same thing. I'll move it.
Ron, a second.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
27 is a
Aye.
resolution. I'm sorry, 27 is a resolution authorizing the issuance of $22,365,000 worth of GEO bonds, Series 2018, and levying a tax. I'll move it.
Second.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
One thing I've come to the conclusion is I will be the mayor that has put the city in debt further than anybody else. I've signed more of those bonds than anybody ever will.
Oh, we're backing you. How you like that?
28 is an issue, resolution temporary closing various streets in historic 4th Street area, June 15th through the 17th, 2018.
Mayor, Council, Angel Walls, Parks and Recreation Manager. At this time, I would like to defer this item until the March 5th council meeting.
I got to make a statement on this. I'm damn disappointed. You know, this has gone 3 weeks, and we should have something done before 3 weeks. I'm not sure that I want to defer it. I think that we need to get something taken care of here today, and I think that we should come up with some kind of conclusion. I volunteered to be a mediator, and I received an email from Soho and EMS and asked me not to come to the meeting. And so I
I've had those invitations.
I know it. Well,
The family reunion.
yeah. Well, this is a little bit different than a family reunion, Bob, but I'm just, they asked me to respectfully decline attending the meeting. I said, fine, so I didn't go. I assumed that things were going to be taken care of within the 3 weeks, and here we are, 3rd week. And now we want to go another week. I want to know why.
2 meetings were held with the property owners and the applicant, Awesome Biker Nights, for the street closure request. At the time of the meeting, the items that were addressed, one being would there be any types of accessibility for patrons not wishing to attend Awesome Biker Nights, but go to the establishments, if accommodations would be made for those parties, and that was agreed upon, that there would be a location for in a gated area that would allow for patrons to come in and out. They would be escorted to the establishments. They would not be required to purchase a wristband, and so that was agreed upon at one of the meetings. The second item was the amount of participation fees that would be requested for those that wanted to vend outside of their establishments during the event. That amount was reduced down to $1,000, as was discussed during the council meeting. And also, if an establishment did not wish to vend, they would not be required to pay the $1,000 participation fee. And they would have the opportunity to have their establishment open. The third item was, and probably one of the most important items, was the question if Awesome Biker Nights would sell alcohol at the event. When we met as a group last week, Awesome Biker Nights had not made that determination if they were going to sell alcohol. And I was told, and during the meeting, Awesome Bikers board members shared that they would be having their meeting tomorrow night to determine where they were going to sell alcohol at the event.
Okay, so here.
That's one of the primary.
Then they have their decision.
They have the right to have the decision.
I just want to say what I got to say, okay? First of all, I want everything in writing. So when you guys all get up here next week, if we do defer it, I want it all wrote out. Second of all, we're here for street closures. That's what we're here to decide on. We're not here to decide on them doing a beer tent or doing 2 beer tents, because that's a whole nother deal, okay? So if we do defer this, okay, but next week it's going to be a done deal. And that's where I'm at, because I am very, very disappointed right now. Brian, come up if you want to talk.
Thank you, Council. Brian Hall with Awesome Biker Nights. I would kind of like just to say that we have met a few times on this item. The first time I thought it was pretty much settled. The second time I was for sure it was settled with Angel, that everybody was satisfied other than the possibility of us still selling beer. I told them I'd bring it to our board meeting. We haven't had the board meeting. We never planned it till tomorrow, till after you guys made your decision whether we have our streets, so we know which direction to go. With that said, we know we're only, that way. We could assume that we possibly will have one beer tent. We're getting rid of one, so that's 50% of the beer tents are gone. We lowered the fee by 33.3%, down to $1,000 versus the $1,500. As I said when we were with Angel in that meeting, we all left under the understanding that the council would see this tonight. We really need to move forward. We're not even able to get sponsors. We're not able to get vendors. The vendors want to know where they're going to be before they sign on. We're so far behind the game this year on this item, and we'd really wish you guys would,
But that,
make that decision tonight.
that bothers me just a little because it's not our fault, right?
No.
Because the first time you came, I said, did you bring everyone to the table and have a discussion or get something down? And you said you hadn't. So, I mean, that's not on us to, you know what I mean? I can appreciate that you're behind because I've thrown a lot of fundraisers for a lot of different organizations and I know that timing is a lot. But I mean, you knew last year that you were probably going to have another awesome biker nights, right? I mean, so you've had a year.
Yeah, but
And we did not know this was even coming to light until your last, well, not the last meeting, the meeting before that, when we found out that letter came out. You folks had seen the letter before I did.
The people that were against it sent their letter months ago. That was on Facebook months ago, right? I mean.
Correct. And you folks received that letter before I ever even seen it. And I had talked to Rhonda about that. We were surprised.
I'm disappointed. Number one, when a council member offers to go to a meeting, then there ought to be enough respect for that council member to go attend the meeting. I'm disappointed, to say the least, because the media asked me what's going on today, and I said, well, I don't know, because I'm waiting to hear from Rhonda. So that disappoints me a lot. I wish I'd have known that ahead of time.
I have the letter right here.
And I didn't realize she was not, I thought she was
Let me
coming
finish.
myself.
Then we tell you, the guys, to back down on your beer tents a little bit, and that you still lower the fee. Why lower the fee? The people wanted to pay the $1,500. We're in agreement to it. And if you cut down to one beer tent, it seems to me they'll make more money, but you did that, and that's fine. So now we're down to the issue, I understand, of M's and Sohos, but I don't know. I have a saying that no good deed goes unpunished, and this vote's going to be one of them. No matter what we do, that's unfortunate, but it's going to be that.
I'm going to do what I'm brought up here to do today, or next week. I'm going to vote with common sense, because I tell you, this has gotten crazy. Not only has this gotten blown out of proportion, it's not good for the city. The PR is terrible. People are all talking about it. I mean, it's making all of us look like what's going on, like we're idiots up here. We just want it to be a good event. That's all. If you have to, this is how I believe events go. They all go in a circle, and they all kind of wear themselves out after a while. And I think that maybe also Biker Nights is maybe slowing down a little bit. That means that the charities aren't going to get as much as has been put out before. I think everybody needs to back off a little bit and think about what's happening. I want this to be a good event. I want everybody to be happy.
Well, they're not going to be, so we just will hear from everybody and then either decide to vote today or put it off for a week.
My big disappointment was this. I was thinking that when I read my agenda, I'm thinking, okay, this is all going to be done. We're going to vote on this. Street cars, it's all going to be good. We voted. Then I see the front page of the paper today. I'm going, are you kidding me? I thought things were done. I thought things were taken care of. Julie, maybe you can address it, because I'm not sure what happened.
Well, in just 1 second, the other thing I would say too, that when it came out in the article that a compromise had been reached and it was talking about deputies and using that, when I talked to you two gentlemen, Brian and Andy, I had mentioned utilizing reserves or the reserve program. And I don't know if anyone took me up on that or had that conversation, but I ran into Mr. Trobaugh. What is his rank? What is it?
Todd.
Well, I know what's his rank.
Well, it don't matter.
Anyway,
Lieutenant.
Todd
He's major.
Troma,
I
Todd
believe he's-
Troma, the person that's in charge of the reserve program. And I ran into him and I was like, hey, so what's going on with Awesome Biker Nights? That's cool. You guys worked out a deal. I think that could be a good thing. Save some costs and everything like that. And he said, yeah, I was pretty surprised when I read the paper because no one's talked to me about it.
And I've actually had the conversation today with them. I believe they received that information that somebody was going to talk to them from the last meeting we had here. And I've had a call in for the sheriff, Dave Drew.
Well, here's the deal.
And so I did talk to him.
That's why I think maybe even deferring it at what you want to do with alcohol sales. And then it will give you time too. I mean, gosh, you're talking big coin for the,
You know what?
security
Not
officers.
really.
So it's like if you offset with reserve officers, I don't know why not.
You still
Reserve
have to pay
officers are not
officers.
free. You have to understand that. They're $15 plus you're still paying for a supervisor over them, which is
Correct.
35. So, it's not free. And on the other side of it, we also have the Sioux City Police Department that we should not be pushing out because they've done it for all these years. So let's be fair about this whole thing. That's my thing.
Correct, and using, because everybody said that they were free, but they're really
They're
not.
not free.
Yeah, for every 3 that you pay for as a reserve, you have to have, like, say, 1 full-time.
Yeah.
So that ends up being the
And
amount
that's
the
why you
same.
would still have Sioux City Police Department.
Correct, and we still would have Sioux City PD.
Yeah, I would want you to visit with them in the next
I don't
week,
think that they would
or
be
at
in
least
charge
iron that out.
of the deputies though.
I had a question about
But
the
I'm not
secu-
for sure what the difference between
That's not even our
tonight and
issue, though.
Monday. Yeah, I mean,
Not even- we
waiting a
shouldn't even
week,
be
I don't
involved in
know
that.
what would,
That's their
what's
deal.
gonna
This
change.
is their event. It's their event. We're here for street closures.
And I even have one of the brick and mortar, another brick
I
and
right,
mortar
Bob?
member here that would like to speak too, if we could, please.
Well, I won't vote on the street closure until I know exactly how it's being operated.
I'm okay with that.
And I like the idea of deferring it for the week, but security isn't an issue for me, and the way that it read in our request for council action, it said the hours of service can be reduced for a cost savings. So now I'm wondering, when are police going to be there, and and it said deputies in the paper. And there's a difference between a deputy and a reserve officer. I'm not even sure the reserve officer has does the reserve officer have the authority to make an arrest?
You guys want it, you cops want to argue that. They're deputized, they get paid $1 a year, they get to carry guns, they do not take people to jail, they only hold them until the police officer gets there, but they have arresting power.
They do have the power to arrest.
Yes, they do.
Okay, well, I'm putting, I think they provide a great service.
If
I
your
put
police
my-
department was on top of it, they'd have a reserve police department.
Well, I wouldn't argue that with you. I think there's a lot of fields that they could help in.
That's their.
In our first operation
But it
will be
doesn't get
Sioux
any
City.
better than having the police there, as far as I'm concerned.
And that's our first spot is the Sioux City PD. We're trying to work with them on the hours and that, and
We're not asking to do away with the police department, we're just asking to cut back on the police.
So do you know when that'll be? When will they actually be? I don't even know for sure when you open up for the day and when you close.
See, but
So-
this is to me where exactly you would have those details, you would have the number of officers you want, you would know how many alcohol tents you're gonna have, you would know what the game plan is for
This is
how
why
you're
it
gonna
has to
work
be,
with.
we have to have a street closure first. We really do, before we can put all that into play. We need to know.
No, that's not true.
Thank God.
I want everything written out. I want to see it right there in front of me. What's going on with this whole event, because you guys have done this to us. You put us in the middle here, and we should not have to be in the middle. All we're sitting here doing is doing a street closure, but now you got me all upset for what?
That wasn't our intent.
No.
We have
I
done,
know that, but
you guys asked
I'm
us
just saying, this
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
The security we've been handling every year for 18 years, this going into
I
our
don't care about
19th
any of
year.
that. Let's hear the
Yeah.
rest of it.
You've asked us to
isn't part
meet,
of the
I
issue
trust
that
that
should
and we
be
have
worked.
met, and we have come to a common ground. We had thought
Sir,
with
could you give us your name and
Terry
address?
Douglas, I'm on the board of Awesome Biker Night.
Your address too, please. Address.
My home address is 2940 Military Road.
Thank you.
We had met and we thought we had a common ground. Yes, we didn't shake hands and give hugs, but we thought we had
Right.
common ground that we could actually work out, we could take to our board and work out. until this came out over the weekend. We thought we had it settled, what would work for everybody.
But to Rhonda's point, if you thought you had a deal, my number one thing of when I would
No,
be
we
negotiating
didn't.
with someone and I thought I had a deal, I'd be like, well, we wrote it out and you signed your name right here.
Angel, did you take notes for us during that
Right, but
meeting?
they're saying that you would have presented to everyone with what the game plan was, and everyone would have.
These are the stipulations. You know what I mean? Like here are the five, like who was it? It was Dan, right? That laid out 3 things. Said these are the 3 things I would need in order for us to be cool with this. And so what I would do is I would come and I would say, well, yeah, you guys made concessions as well. If this is agreeable, which is where you said you were agreeing, then here's where we sign. And there are however many businesses there are lines for them to sign.
You have a lawyer on
we've
that.
turned that in.
Talk to Randy Heisey. He can set up your contract and you can all sign it and everybody will be fine. And that's a lawyer. So it's all a done deal. I'm done here.
Well, Bob's practicing. Bob could
Yeah,
sign.
Bob,
He's
can
a
you
lawyer.
practice here a little bit?
He's
How,
a
am I
lawyer.
okay? All right, so we're all done here until next week. You guys come back with a signed contract from everybody and we'll go from there.
So the paper they signed already doesn't stand?
Did they sign a paper?
Yes,
Yes,
we passed out a paper to every business down there.
Yeah, well, you know what? I read that too, and I don't like that.
No, just a consensus of.
I don't care about that because that's not what we're discussing here today. And besides, I read that contract and I wouldn't have signed it. If you had, I don't know, what was it, 9 people that signed it, and if you had a couple people that didn't sign it, then the people that signed it had to make up the difference, so they'd be paying more? That's crazy.
No, that was from last year.
No.
This year, the businesses down there, the brick and mortars, had signed the paper wanting ABN down there on the street to be a participant with us.
Well,
And
everybody
we
would
have
too.
one of the brick
I
and
know,
mortar.
I understand that, that's why.
We have one of the brick and mortars right
personally-
here that will get up and talk and let you guys hear what they have to say.
And the other side of it, and I think that M's even agreed with something. So it's Julie that's having the problem here, so I think we need to sit down and,
And I don't know what else we could compromise with them. Like I said, we lowered the fees. We knocked down, and there could be a possibility we have no beer sales. But we want to move forward right now with the
That's what
council
we're
that
saying
we're
is
having
you
a
have
beer
your-
tent.
you
Now,
have
the
your
convention
executive.
center used to sell beer in front of the stage, and we got a percentage. They're not involved no more because we're not down there. Now we're down at the other end of the street, and we're going to have a beer tent there with the stage. And if we assume that, then maybe we can move forward with your guys closing the street. Because remember the 3 items. And so
But
we
you also
have
got-
them in front of you.
I understand that, but you also got 3 bars past Soho's too, that, you should maybe try to take care of. I mean, if they're gonna be giving you money.
We do.
They are.
We have our other
They're
stage
planned.
on Court Street. We cannot go west no further because of the convention center is closed. We cannot have Virginia Street. So we can't do nothing down that way. We're gonna take it to the corner like we show in our closing. And I mean, we'd love to have the convention center if you guys would like to stop construction this year.
Only
then
one of us
we
would
could
do
have
that.
well, we could have special events there. But we're doing the best with what we can for the area we have. And the items you requested us to do, we have done. So we're presenting you with them items.
Well, it looks like the consensus is we're gonna defer it until next Monday. So between now and next Monday, y'all get together. I wanna see a signed contract. I want everybody, come by out here and, shaking hands and, doing the lovey-dovey thing here because we could, it's a big deal. The Awesome Biker Nights is a big deal.
Yes, it's a good deal.
And, I'm not gonna, I don't wanna defer it. But I
Yeah,
don't think.
we would like you not to too. I mean,
we need-
we need to get moving on this. We really do. And I'm gonna be out of town next week. I know every one of us have jobs. And for us to keep meeting and it seems like every week, once we meet, another letter comes out to the paper and
that's
you don't
why
even
we
know
get
it's
all
coming
these-
till, well, I can't stop that. Not one of us on the board can, nobody on the city council, nobody in Sioux City can.
But if you
There's
met,
one
you
lady
came
that
to-
can.
But if you met.
Angel,
you
I
came
want to
to-
ask you a question. What was your opinion of the meeting, the last meeting?
The two items, one being the street closure request, Everyone agreed upon that. They agreed upon either, if you wanted to vend outside, they pay the $1,000. If they did not want to vend, they did not have to pay the $1,000 and could have their restaurant open. When the alcohol sales came to conversation, I said that will be going to city council for approval when Awesome Biker Nights applied for that permit. At that time, if the two establishments wanted to come before city council and discuss them or oppose that alcohol permit, then they could do that at that time.
But your feelings are they had an agreement other than the alcohol?
That is correct.
Well, let's hear from you guys, because we're gonna move here one way or another.
Oh, man. Vernon Meyer, 415 Kingsbury Court, Sergeant Bluff, Iowa, co-owner of M's on 4th.
Julie Shaner, 4557 Hamilton Boulevard, owner of Soho Kitchen and Bar.
And I just want to go on record, honestly, I shared the same thing, kind of kicked it back with Angel, is I don't envy any of the decisions that you have to make. And obviously this is not an easy one either. It's not one easy for us as well. Personally, I want to apologize to you, Rhonda, if we felt that we offended you. That was not our intent. We thought we were all adults and still believe that. And
That's what I thought. You know, 3 weeks into this and we're still acting like little kids. I think it's
agreed. And I think
crazy.
I think to the point of, I think there's always contingencies. The three things never changed. For my partner and I, Dan Myers and I, the three things were: don't block our place of business. Don't force us to pay to vend outside if we choose not to. Don't block our restaurant. And 3, don't compete against us. And those have never changed in the 3 weeks. And what I understand to happen is they're two separate things, yes, but they are contingent on each other. If you're going to have someone who's going to vend against local businesses, that is our livelihood. That's what we do. We serve the public. I know a lot of you have come in and eaten in M's and had a beverage and taken in that. And this is not against anything that Awesome Biker Nights is doing. We as a business are trying to reserve the right to protect our business and the employees that come, that will rely on us to make good, sound business decisions each and every day. That's where it ends. And the thought of competing against somebody that's our job to compete against this doesn't make sense to me. And I've had many people say that. It doesn't make sense. And to me, it's like, well, why is it that they feel like they have to have, or anybody has to contend or come against those businesses, not just Soho's and M's and all the other businesses, but why don't they go out and get additional sponsorships? Why can't they sell more tickets? Those are all things that they do well. And that's where we want them to do what they do well and allow us to do what we do well.
So you would drop your opposition if they didn't get a liquor license?
Correct.
And not just them, because I want to make very, very clear, if there's anything that I've learned through this process, it cannot be gray. I think allow them we asked them point blank, what's your biggest hurdle? In the very first meeting, it was, we have no place to hold our event.
Right.
Fine. Then go ahead and hold your event there under the condition that if you can get $1,000 from our neighbors to pay to vend outside, more power to you, okay? That's okay. If other businesses choose to do that, that's their right.
Okay, let me tell you my problem. We said this, lower your price, but now all of a sudden, they can't sell beer and they've lowered their price. So that's not fair either. It's not fair. It should go back to the $1,500 because everybody was willing to pay that. And if I vote to put them out of the beer business, which I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to make the motion whether Rhonda wants one or not, then they should be able to go back to the $1,500. It's only fair. You put them out of the beer business.
I would say that's fair.
That's fair.
I'm going to move the item with the condition that Awesome Biker Nights does not get a liquor license.
And it sounds like you worked out the gate issue, right?
Yeah.
Right? You guys
Yep,
agreed
as
to
best
that?
as they can.
Yeah, they agreed that they would have a public access gate, and that's fair to not just us. I mean, I think it's fair to
Randy
the
and
med,
Abe.
the med spas, the Randy who has the antique shop, and Beth who has the flowers. It's not just us.
Yeah,
I think if
yeah,
you're gonna have, and I think that what's getting lost in all this is have it signed not just by everybody on Fourth Street, but have it signed not just by restaurants and bars, have it signed by everybody that's affected on that corridor.
It'd be crazy.
I think that's just fair to them as well, and I think that's what gets lost is,
So, okay, so my question, Bob, before we go there, are you guys gonna be paying the fees then?
We
I
have
said,
the- we
I
have the
said if I
option.
vended, I would definitely pay the fee. I already told them that at
All right,
$1,000 even.
So if there's, if they have no beer, you
the
can
Just
brick-
say,
we want the brick
just the
and
people who are there.
mortars to have that right.
Right.
So
There's 9 of
if
us.
there's no beer sold by these guys, you're gonna each pay $1,500.
She will.
If they're going to.
I'm choosing.
If we're gonna
not
vend,
to.
we definitely
If
will.
If we vend out in the street, we'll definitely pay that. If we don't vend out, I can tell you, Dan and I have said we're not gonna vend outside. It takes several hundreds and thousands of beers to get caught up to that. But I also stated that, and I know that this is coming from my partner as well, that we would give a percentage of our profits or whatever came in to our restaurant, we would give to that, a charity of that nature and goodwill. But it has to make good business sense, and that was our way of saying, I don't want to pay the 1,000 or 1,500, but we'll give a percentage of our sales. So at least we're not just sitting inside, as some people think we were making fat hog and making all the money and not doing anything with it.
Yeah,
That's not the case.
Let me tell you something. I understand this whole situation all the way around, because when I have my rock concert every year, I stuck my neck out thousands of dollars for one day, and I charged $10 at the gate. So, if it rained, I was done.
Yeah.
I had a football game with 800, or supposedly 8 inches of snow. I understand risk better than anybody.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I get all that, but if one pays, they all should pay.
Yep, we agree with that.
Okay,
If you vend on the street, you should have to pay. And if they want to put it back to 1,500, they put it back to 1,500, as long as there's only the original 9 liquor licenses on the street.
Yeah.
Is there a second to my motion?
I'll
I
second it.
think Andy wanted to talk.
I understand that.
And
Let's
then-
get a second to it.
I'll second it. And I'll tell you up front that that's one of my concerns is the license part of it. No problems with Awesome Biker Nights, no problems with what you do, and I think if my math is good, the accountant will tell me if it's not, but I think I read 1.1 million for 18 years that you've raised for charities. Somewhere in the area of $61,000 a year, pretty special thing. I don't know how much of it comes from alcohol or not, but as kind of a way to, I guess, put this in perspective, I just had this image that what if we have a football game, we have a hockey game, and we invite everybody to bring your license down to the Tyson, and now you're selling on the concourse and taking money away from the city, and I don't like that. I don't think that's right. And
Awesome Biker Nights comes every weekend that I have a playoff game.
Yeah.
God bless you. I lose my tail on that game. But you know what? It's good for the community, and I'll take one for the team.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna add to that, because when Awesome Biker Nights is around, I was the last stop, the last year that I was open, I was the last stop. I never even booked a band for my weekend, because I knew I was not gonna mess with Biker Nights. So, I lost money myself, because I wanted Biker Nights to have a good, I would have people show up down there, but I didn't have any entertainment, because I let it to you guys. So, I think we all kind of give and take a little bit.
And typically, when council votes to close streets, it's usually a 2-hour, 4-hour, 8-hour block maybe. It's not 3 days.
3 days.
And that really puts a hardship here that I find a very big challenge to overcome. I really like what Awesome Biker Nights has done. I also like 4th Street and what you've invested in your businesses to help make it a very good place to visit and eat and enjoy. And I'm afraid if Awesome Biker Nights wants to sell alcohol, if it's becoming an alcohol issue, I'm not going to vote for that. I will vote with the amendment that.
A lot of
Address,
thoughts
please.
running through my head and.
Andy, address, please, I'm sorry.
2641 Franklin Avenue, Hornick, Iowa. We've done this for 18 years and the last 4 years we've sold alcohol. I understand that we've never had a problem with our legal process, our insurance. We've ran through every one of the laws and regulations the city and the state puts on us. We've never been turned down for any reason other than the politics presented here tonight. And it seems like the politics presented here tonight is based on competition.
Let me address that. You don't close down businesses for 3 days. Listen, I'm all for what you guys do.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you'd find a place where you didn't interfere with anybody and still be able to hold your festival.
Mm-hmm.
But I get upset, and I shouldn't, on Ash Wednesday when my parking lot becomes the overflow parking lot for the cathedral. I hope you understand that. It's during tax season. I have limited space. That lasts an hour. You know what? I say, for Pete, my friend, the good Catholic, we'll let that go. But there's a certain point in time when you say 3 days that you're shutting the front door of businesses down. That's difficult. And I'm on your side on this issue, by the way. I don't necessarily agree. Well, 2 days, but you're setting up on Fridays and that. I don't agree. I think you have to take in the chin. Listen, I lose about $10,000 on that playoff game because of you guys, because nobody's coming downtown that night, whether you believe it or not, unless you're going to bikers night. But that's the way it is. I understand that. I get it. I'm all for you. But if it's a problem selling beer, then let's find you a new venue and not do it there. And then these business owners are going to wish you would have been there, I think.
Well, 7 of the 9 down there.
I get it.
Want us down there. They may not like the fact we sell beer, but there's a couple of them represented here tonight, or at least one that came to speak on our behalf. And he is directly across the street from our beer tent. And so if anybody is suffering because of our beer tent, it would be him and the Marquis. And the Marquis is in favor. And they're the ones that stand to lose the most because their beer tent last year was like 40 feet away from our beer tent, selling the same products. So that being said, the competition issue really isn't the issue. And I think we all know what is. But the fact of the matter is, the restriction of competition doesn't seem to be in the city's best interest. To me, that doesn't make sense because that's all this presents itself to be. Taking the side of 2 businesses that is hurting one of the biggest charity events in the region. Granted, our revenue has dropped every year for the past 5-6 years. And there's logical reasons for that with the additional competition from the Hard Rock and their outdoor concerts. Ours isn't unique anymore. It used to be there was 2 or 3 of them during the summer. Now it's 1 every weekend. So people's feelings, their needs are being met for their outdoor concert needs. So that's part of where we need to find another revenue stream. And alcohol sales is a no-brainer to us. I've been in favor of it for years. I'm the chairman of that committee that signs up with the state. We make the appeal or the application to the state. Pardon me, I'm getting a little out of breath. But the whole success around Awesome Biker Nights is the city's cooperation, and that's what we're asking for. We've never done anything. We've never stepped out of line with the city, as far as I know, in the 19 years we've been here. And we're just asking for additional consideration. We understand the objection. We understand the reluctance of these guys not to want any competition on our weekend. When I say our weekend, I mean Awesome Biker Nights weekend. it seems to me that it is counterproductive for you guys to limit the amount of revenue we feel we can make. Ticket sales, we need the money. Frankly, we need the money. And I think if you guys give us our street closures and sidewalk closures, we could say, okay, we don't want anybody on the sidewalk selling alcohol. I think. I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
You can be. I think, because you can't shut a business off, number one, I don't think, and all they have to do is apply to move their liquor license, and even if the council says no, as Mr. Padmore says, the state can overrule us.
It was a couple of years ago that you suggested that to us, Bob.
I agree, but I think you found you can't close the right-of-way for the purpose of a street if it's part of your deal.
We're not saying close the right-of-way.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying that that's a legal question, and we have to, even though you have the right-of-way, doesn't mean you have total access to the right-of-way.
All right, so I stand corrected. So we would have that same appeal process through the state?
I hate to say that.
Well,
Yeah, you can appeal any decision made by the local authority. So with respect to an alcohol license.
Well, and to be
But they're
clear,
not
what we're
talking alcohol, they're talking beer.
be clear, what we're discussing tonight is not their application to sell beer.
Yes.
It's
But you
just
can-
for the road closure, so you could, under the mayor's motion, you could condition the street closure on them not applying for the right to sell
Yes.
alcohol. And so that would not be appealable if.
Let's make this
But
clear,
if
though.
you-
We're not talking alcohol, we're talking
But
beer,
if you were
right?
going to go through with.
Beer.
If you were going to go through with the application process.
Yes.
And this body said no.
Yes.
Yes, you can go to the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, ABC in Ankeny, I believe, and they'll hear it, and they could overrule the local authority easy. They could do it.
Okay, well, I'm not saying that's the route we're going, because we have a board meeting tomorrow night where the other board members have to decide. I'm just one vote.
They could not.
But
Can't under my motion, because it says that's how you're getting.
Well, yeah, then they couldn't host it there.
But
Yeah.
could we not come back for another request for street closures? Or would that be just, you in essence, telling us, no, we can't close the streets and Austin Biker Nights
Well,
is
if it
over?
passes tonight that there's not gonna be any beer, then we might as well pass the street closure, because that's what the whole issue is. But I wanna see
I
everything
want to
right.
be, I'm still unclear on this. If you're saying, if Bob's motion carries, and you say we cannot apply for a beer license,
We're not saying you can't apply. You can apply, and it might
No,
be,
he was saying he wouldn't apply.
well, that's what I'm unclear
Couldn't
on.
grant the street closure if they apply.
right.
The street closure would be contingent upon our not applying for a beer license. Is that true?
Yes.
And so if we go ahead and apply for a beer license, and we'd have to reapply for street closure, is that the only
That'd be correct.
alternative? Is that true? I just want to
I'm
be
gonna
clear.
say- Once,
What would be the point of that? I don't know, just to make it
I'm
go on the
assuming that
record.
once we say street closure, either way, it's gonna be done. I'm not gonna vote for no beer, so, but then, I don't know how my three boys are gonna vote here, but, well, I kinda have a pretty good idea. If it goes 2 and 2, it doesn't pass, because we're missing somebody.
Okay, well, I guess that's all I had to say, unless you want to hear from one of the other bar owners from the other end that support our.
We're gonna make it quick. We've been on this now, again, it's an hour of everybody's life. This is like 3 hours on this, so who's ever gonna speak, let's go quick, because
I just wish they could come to an agreement. That's what I don't understand. Is it with the deferment, you know what I mean, to be able to sign?
We really tried, we really did. We set up more than one meeting with them, and it's just, we agree to disagree. So it's not like we aren't bringing it back to the board to vote. That's a concession all on its own, because it was a foregone conclusion we were gonna have a beer tent this year. So that's a concession.
all right, we're gonna go.
Mac Dolan, 1715 Harkin Place, Sioux City, Iowa. I've been doing the event for 18 years since it was developed. They've been selling beer for 2 years. Started at Hard Rock and then last year. That's how many years we've sold beer. You guys have sold beer. I don't care if they sell beer, I just want the event down there because it helps my business prolong itself through the summer because summers are hard on the bars and restaurants. I go and have biker nights. They already said yes, right? We have our yes, you have your event, we're done, let's go.
1,500?
Yep, 1,500 from whoever wants to serve beer out there. And that's $4,500 worth of beer sold by the volunteers that you don't have to put together and buy the beer, right?
Okay, so how's the rest of the bar's gonna feel about this now that it's gone up another 500?
We were, the only two people at the meeting were Ems and Soho, correct?
We're the only two that knew about it.
Right. None of us were invited.
Feel about it.
Okay. I've talked to Tiff at BA's. I've talked to Jesus and Renzo at Key Club and Rocks and Rails. I don't know about Brian and I don't know about CJ. As far as the bars down there, all I can say is the people that sell will pay the $1,500, I assume, because we've done it for the last 18 years. The two against it already said they will if they decide to sell beer outside of their place. If they don't, so be it. More beer to sell for the rest of us. If you get all 9, that's $4,500 extra than just charging us $1,000, which is a good day of beer sales, right?
I'm with you.
So can we get the street closure and you guys say yes and $1,500, no beer sales this year, and come back at it next year? And biker nights happens. And we're done. Yeah?
I call for the question.
Thanks, Mac.
What's that?
Vote on the motion.
Waters?
This is the vote on the
Well,
motion.
and do we have to know if they're willing to agree with it, or we're just saying, no, that we will?
We will, they can always appeal. It's probably gonna go 2-2, so it's coming back next week anyway, but go ahead and vote.
Right now, you're voting on the motion.
On the mayor's motion?
Correct.
Okay.
And the
One
motion
more
is to
thing.
increase it to
Hold it.
1,500
Stop.
and not appeal for.
How are you guys looking at this beer thing? Are you in or out?
Alex, the motion
Is
is
this could
simply to
solve it right
close
here.
the street contingent on no alcohol sales by Austin Biker Nights. We don't have any say in the charges. or
Okay,
any of
hold
that.
on a minute. Brian, come up here and talk to us.
You were so close.
I'm Jean
Rob,
Logan
sorry.
at 299 Hickory Avenue. And what I want to tell you is Angel said that that we will have a separate gate. That would be escorting people to and from, not just to, which I would like to be as technically correct as I could be about that. That might mean that at some point in time, because we're a volunteer run, somebody might have to wait for a minute or two for somebody to escort them. And that's only because people don't want to get hassled for wristbands. And the other part I'll answer, and I know I don't want to take your thunder or anything, but our board meeting is tomorrow night, and so our board will vote on whether or not there's beer sales. We've consistently said that. That meeting's tomorrow night. So I'm not going to tell you how I feel about beer sales, because that's something we're going to be talking about as a board tomorrow. We don't have that authority.
Well, Bob made an amendment here.
I know that, and you're going to vote, and we have been waiting for you to decide whether or not we have street closures, so I'm really glad that you're putting it forward so that we know what we can do going forward, okay? I appreciate that, thank you.
Because as a board, we have to vote just like you do. Us right here can, we don't even have enough for a quorum to actually make
I get
that
that.
call.
I get it.
The question I would have too, as far as the volunteers to and from, I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to set up the cattle gate so that they could walk the whole sidewalk to the business.
We did that one year and we was thrown under the bus. And that's the one that Bob said he agreed to, and she brought up pictures,
Yeah.
I think Iowa law
tried that.
requires that there be a contiguous beer garden, for lack of a better word, from the restaurant where the license is to where you'll be outside. So they'll have to have a barrier. They have to have a discernible barrier that allows only people over 21 to be
Called the question.
in an area where you're selling
In the
alcohol.
discussion.
It's,
Thank you.
I believe.
Robert's Rule of Order, when you call for the question, the attorney just remind me, discussion ends, we vote. Vote no, if you don't like it, we'll defer it, whatever, but let's vote.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Okay.
All right, dictatorship, here we
No,
go.
that was from the city attorney who came from your city manager, and they're both right. Sorry, I should have been there myself. Sorry.
thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
I'm voting no.
Greckin?
Aye.
Scott?
Yes.
Then I'll vote no, so it comes back this week and we can wait to hear what they say. That doesn't mean I'm for them selling beer. I'm just.
Might as well.
Then you'll need a motion to defer it 1 week.
I was gonna
You
say,
don't
you
need
might
a
as well
motion, it automatically gets deferred. Unless somebody wants to make a new motion.
You can, somebody can either make a motion to defer the item, or you can not act on it, and then it will come back on its own.
Because it failed. Dan was supposed to be on his way back, but he's not, so I was hoping he would get here.
There you go. There you go, Brian.
Citizen concerns, any citizens to be heard? Council?
No, sir.
God, I'm wore out. I pass.
I know he won't, but go ahead.
Yeah, right. Well, it's 6:15, so I hate that we're this late already, but there's actually a comprehensive steering meeting tonight that's being held at Long Lines. I would really encourage, since if you're not there, you're probably a little too late to that show. But I'm serious. If you're listening to this or if you're here, please go on our website and fill out the survey about the comprehensive plan and the direction you see our city going. It is the best tool for you to fill out, give us direction, give us ideas, talk about where we could go. I mean, you hear the positive and the negative all the time. This is a perfect opportunity to voice your opinion. Yeah, so please do so. But yeah, it's the comprehensive plan. I think you just, on the city's website, you go, I want to, and fill out the comprehensive plan survey. And there are probably a million other things I want to bring up, but I got to go to that meeting. So.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Peterman?
Aye.
Redkin?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Walker?
Aye.